Or good evening everybody, and you're all very welcome to the second in our TidyTowns webinar series. As you know, I'm Sinead. I work with Limerick City and County Council as the Environment Awareness Officer. I'm very sorry this evening that we had to change our programme. It couldn't be helped, and we're very hopeful to welcome Dee back to us in the coming weeks for the webinar on the sustainability category. And as you know, Dee is a TidyTowns adjudicator, or Deborah is a TidyTowns adjudicator. So we're looking forward to welcoming her back. So just as a replacement, I've put together a few ideas on TidyTowns from my own experience. I'm going to apologise in advance for all of those of you who are way up the medal table and loads of points and that. I hope you'll get something for this. For anybody who maybe isn't part of TidyTowns yet and we're encouraging to take part, please don't feel overwhelmed by anything that you might see here. Just come and talk to us. That's the key element. Come and talk to us. There's people who are participating this evening who are at all different levels within TidyTowns, and it really is about taking one step at a time and slowly but surely improving and working on your area. So one of the reasons TidyTowns is very involved in obviously sustainability now. Sorry, my slideshow isn't moving for me. There we go. And this is one of the reasons why. And often we ask the question, well, why is TidyTowns moving this direction? Well, we all need to move this direction. It's not just TidyTowns. We as a whole need to move this direction. And we are using resources as if we had two planets, not one. And there can be no plan B because we don't have a planet B. And that was Ban Ki-moon when he was the head of the United Nations. So what we know so far about TidyTowns 2021, the competition, it's a competition, there's definitely a competition in 2021. TidyTowns groups have not been able to operate as normal. Everybody is aware of that. Adjudicators, yourselves, the local authority, the TidyTowns unit, everybody is aware of that. You know, things are very, very different. You should be including actions from June 2019, most definitely. Okay, so that's from when you were there was last a competition, if you like. The format of the adjudication will really depend, this is what we're being told at the moment, will depend on restriction levels, and we may know more on the 3rd of March about that, but it really depends on what level of restriction we're at as the summer goes on, as far as I understand it. Limerick City and County Council is going to host another webinar on the 3rd of March, Wednesday the 3rd of March at 8 p.m. and it's Mr. John Carney, the Higher Executive Officer in the National TidyTowns Unit, is going to present on specifically on the application. So my ideas I've put under community and planning and involvement. So you will have come across some of this before. You know about having a 3 to 5 year plan to work towards, and a map within your community or for your community, and a map specifically for the adjudicator that earmarks your various projects, and also so that they can find their way around the area, to the area, depending on where you're located, and also find the various projects that you're involved in. One of the things that I think is a good idea, and it was the TidyTowns chairperson based in Louth, they were the overall winner I think in 2011. Richard says very regularly, try and consider doing a community skills audit, because you might find somebody who can do something. They mightn't be able to come to a meeting all the time and all the rest of it, but they might have the skill to fill out an application, the TidyTowns application. They might have the skill to do a funding application. They might have the skill to do social media, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. In the community and planning section, did you do any funding applications this year? Many of you will have had Going for Goal funding for 2020, and you may have had some Community Environment Action Fund funding which you were going to work on through 2020. I appreciate that there may have been some difficulties in doing that with the year that's in it. did you make any submissions, or did your community make any submissions as a community on public consultations like the directly elected mayor for Limerick City and County, or local area plans for your area, or the pre-consultation on the development plan? If you did, they should be mentioned here. Consider an online presence. Now, many of you have online presences. I have Cove TidyTowns up there as an example. Adair has a presence, Castleconnell, Limerick City TidyTowns has a presence, Galbally has a presence. I'm missing people now, and that's terrible, but they're the ones I'm just going to mention for the moment. It is a direction to consider going, particularly after the year we've had. We've seen how useful technology can be to communicate with people and all the rest of it, and this could even be useful in communicating with adjudicators. And I did notice in the Limerick reports last year that anywhere that had a social media presence, the adjudicator did actually mention it, and had looked at it. So I do think it will be worth considering this within your community. Don't be overwhelmed yourself if you really haven't a clue about this. Everybody has to start somewhere with these things, but this is where there may be somebody in your community who's not in your group, but this might be the thing that allows them to volunteer with you. Okay, just to think of it that way. And you don't have to have a presence, okay? Be very definite about that. You don't have to have a presence, but you could consider it. So, and then in terms of the community section, did you do anything in the last year, or has your community to encourage shopping locally, supporting your own village, supporting your own towns, supporting the local businesses? That keeps the community going, keeps money within the community, money circulating and all of that. And what supports have you had in your community? Many of you may have well been out with the volunteering during COVID. You may well be involved with St. Vincent de Paul, Sanctuary Runners. You may also, you may participate in the senior line. You could promote any of these things to people, to members of your community, so that people know that they're there. Also, in terms of green schools, these are links again in the community sections. There's green schools depending on where you're living, green campuses. There's lots of universities or third levels, if you like, LITs, that this would be relevant to. Is there a green business in your area? Does the hotel in your area, are you linked in with them? If you have a large hotel based in your area, is it a focus for the community? Do you have a community centre? Do you have a community council? What I have found in dealing with TidyTowns is some TidyTowns actually are the community council, some are a subgroup of the community council. It's all right, whatever works for your town or village or area, but the key thing is that you're talking to each other and that you're communicating with each other, and that the links will be mentioned in this section. The GAA are obviously a very relevant one. The local credit union might be a very relevant one. Youth groups, local creches, homework clubs, sky's the limit there. And if your community is planning an event, many of you, because of the work you do, the impact of events. So make a plan and make it your business to know the relevant regulations, or who is suggested to who's ever running the event. That actually consult with contractors if appropriate. You might be a small scale event, you may not need to. Know the waste streams that are going to be generated from your event. For instance, I know that Art Patrick, for instance, invested in a very large amount for their community centre of reusable cups for a particular event that they have every year, where they might be giving out 300 cups of tea, and that was to avoid using disposable cups. For your streets and public spaces, have you reported vacant and derelict sites to the local authority? Your first protocol is always customer services. You may already be engaged with the local authority here, and the derelict sites team, or the vacant and derelict sites team, is based within the Community Development Directorate. which is the same directorate as I'm in, and Pádraig Malone, who you'll be hearing from in a minute, who's a panellist here this evening. Murals, this is a great way to tidy up maybe a public space, give a bit of education about the history of an area, like Kilmallock's medieval mural, which is very beautiful, and as you're driving into Kilmallock you actually can see the mural is framed by the archway as you're driving in. Very, very attractive. Bruff have a lovely biodiversity vinyl up on a shop window that, you know, the shop is vacant and not looking so attractive, but the biodiversity murals brighten it up. Have you considered things like window dressing of your vacant premises? You may well know the business owner there. It might be quite easy for you to do this. Now, I'm not saying it is, but you know, things like the most recent Junk Couture, there's 2 entries from Colosh the Nanonagel based in Limerick City on the my left hand side of the screen, and then on the right hand side of the screen, Colosh the Joseph in Kilmallock. There's no reason why we can't engage with the schools in these areas, because that's part of the community team anyway, but this could be used to maybe brighten up a vacant premises. And this particular event, the Junk Couture, would be relevant in the sustainability category as well, and this is where categories begin to link together. Another one, consider painting a junction box project, or a hoarding project. Now, not hoarding as in hoarding stuff, but hoarding as the hoarding around a building. So this one is just, I came across yesterday, I think, on Twitter. Tracy adds a dash of colour to Galway city streets, and they're the little junction boxes there. And then the hoarding project there, that's one we did, Limerick City and County Council did, but it was a way to help try and promote Love Limerick Don't Litter, and an anti-litter initiative, if you like, to brighten up a particular area. This is very near the milk market. I don't have all the frames that are in it, but there's a whole series of frames and different messages: reduce, reuse, recycle, rethink, you put your dog litter in a bin, all sorts of different messages along that hoarding there, and it's very attractive and brightens up the area. When we look at green space and landscaping, now I'm conscious that Dr. Fiona McGowan, who spoke last week, will have covered some of this, so I'm going to fly through it. One of the ones I wanted to mention is pollinator daffodils. My Latin isn't great, but Narcissus pseudo-narcissus and Narcissus obfoliaris, I believe. So they're 2 to consider, and they were given to us by Dr. Fran, who gave a talk earlier in the year to do with invasive species as part of our Greenleaf programme. And she very much these plants will self-seed themselves. So even though they may be slightly more expensive to buy to begin with, they have a pollinator value, and they self-seed. Okay, so they're a good idea. Again, the move to perennials. So to help you with that, to watch the nature and biodiversity in your locality, by Fiona McGowan. That's on our European Greenleaf channel, which is a Limerick City and County Council YouTube channel. You're probably all very familiar with the All Ireland Pollinator Plan. Plenty of resources there. And you'll see that, like, in some of the pictures there are directly from the All Ireland Pollinator Plan, and the most recent pollinator friendly management booklet they have is actually for sports clubs. So it could be even a question of making your local sports clubs aware of that document, and how little things that they can do to help biodiversity. We're all very fond of dandelions these days, and that is a good thing. And Fiona certainly spoke about them the other day, and I'm going to just add one thought. One of our environmental inspectors that works with us in the council, he has kept honeybees. Now there's 98 different species of, or is it 98? Or in or around that, different species of bees in Ireland. And the honey, only one gives honey. And one of our environmental inspectors, as I said, actually keeps hives and that. And he has always said that his bees will bypass apple blossoms for dandelions. Dandelions are so important for bees, and particularly as an early food source in the winter. So anything you can do to keep your dandelions alive for longer is a good thing. And then we have this lovely Let It Be, and that Let It Be signage, we can certainly, that's produced by Limerick City and County Council as part of the Greenleaf programme for some of our Don't Mow, Let It Grow areas, if you like. So we're very happy to produce that type of signage for our Limerick groups if they need it for TidyTowns. Don't Mow, Let It Grow, very, very important, and Fiona gave quite a discussion on that last Wednesday evening. And also I'll say on the European Greenleaf channel there's a really, really good webinar that we did during the Greenleaf year on Don't Mow, Let It Grow, and the different types of mowing regimes that can be used. So well worth a watch there. Our Hush City app. Now this is, when you see the word city, it doesn't just apply to the city. Basically, this is about this area is about finding areas for quietness, but ultimately to ensure that areas are also afforded some protection and identified in the development plan. As life gets busier in towns and cities, it may be very important to have quiet areas there. And what you'll find is a quiet area doesn't mean absence of sound, because something like running water, a babbling brook, or wind through the trees, they're sounds that mitigate more obtrusive sounds, I suppose. So I'm just going to play this video for you now. It's just a couple of minutes on the Hush City app. So the Hush City app is available for download, and please don't think just because you're living in Newcastle West or Kilmallock or Adair that it's not relevant. You may wish to identify some quiet areas within your towns and villages as well. For nature and biodiversity, again, I'm conscious that Fiona did much of this last week, so I'm just not going to go on about it too much. Gardening for Biodiversity by Juanita Brown of the All Ireland Pollinator Plan. That webinar is also up on our YouTube channel. She did an excellent one over the summer. And then again, Fran did a marvellous one. I'm very sorry I can't remember Fran's second name at the moment, on everyday invasives, which is also well worth a watch because it's talking about the more regular or more common ones, if you like. Things like promoting Birdwatch Ireland's Garden Bird Survey over the winter months, promoting the National Biodiversity Centre's flower insect timed count, building of bat hotels, nest boxes for garden birds or swifts or barn owls. And that picture there on the right, that came from the RTE news site from yesterday, and it was a pair were building nesting boxes for barn owls, and that many people in the local community had taken them on to site them on their properties for the birds. Have you linked in with waters and communities? Are there any, if you have a water or river near you, is there anything relevant on this site that can help you? And I know a lot of you are linked on here and have participated in some of Rory's training programs on otters and the like over the last number of months. For Limerick Invasive Species app, and this links to the webinar I spoke to about earlier, this is actually a very good app. It identifies, I think it is the 6 most common species of invasives in Limerick. And it's a very simple way. You take a photograph, you send it in, the coordinates are with that. The report gets verified in Limerick City and County Council, and we link in with Biodiversity Data Centre as well. And it was Anne Goggins, this specific project was Anne Goggins' project, and it's a great idea, and it's a great way so that everybody knows where the problem areas are, if you like. Just an update on this would have been one that ideally would have happened in person last year for the European Greenleaf Year, but now it's an online conference, and it's Reimagining Irish Rivers, Working with Nature, on March the 22nd and 23rd. It's 2 half days, and it may be of interest to some of you there. And one of the particular themes is achieving for rivers with small resources. So, that can be could be an interesting thing there. This one I've put here, which may seem a bit strange because it could fit in sustainability, but and sustainability is the next category. And this is actually a neighbour's garden. And if you look where the red arrow is, I was taking those photographs today. They're actually of, it's tea set bird feeders, and that's actually a robin on one of the tea sets. And basically she had fat balls with seeds and everything in each of the teacups. So very, very good. There's also a lot of stuff on Pinterest, if you're into Pinterest, showing nest boxes made out of teacups and teapots and the like, and just an interesting way to reuse things that might be just lying around. So that brings us on to sustainability, doing more with less. Now, as that webinar, as I said, it's this category is being rescheduled, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail here. The No Idling campaign is one that I think a lot of groups could be doing, and I think it would be very interesting to do it on a community level rather than have a wider one. And examples of TidyTowns who've done this already are Ennis and Cove, and maybe your school have done it as well. And certainly this was from November 2020, where schools were, talking to people, talking to parents about having no idling. And it's particularly, I sense it's linked with our phone culture, that we stop up in the car and we're on the phone and we're waiting and we just forget to turn off the car. And obviously we should turn off the car. Everybody should. There's no reason for it to be burning fuel when we're just sitting there. Have you linked to the local repair directory on limerick.ie, and also the notion of promoting any second-hand retail within your area? You're more than welcome to link onto this. Just put a link in your local newsletters or whatever, or even develop your own repair directory for your local village or town. Keep an eye on My Waste. Really, really good resources on My Waste. There's booklets for download on greener cleaning, greener home units, and greener gardening. And there's even labels there, greener cleaning labels that My Waste produced, that were originally produced by Suzanne Dempsey, the EAO in Roscommon, and she very kindly makes these things available to anybody who needs them, and the My Waste reproduce them there. Fair trade is also a thing that works under the sustainability category, because by and large, if you have fair trade certification on a product, it means less chemicals and all the rest of it were used to produce it, and that would be very true of the banana trade, for instance. But it's also can be very important in the community section, because you're linking with communities Fair Trade is a very community-based organisation where it's looking after the communities of producers, if you will, so it will be relevant there as well. There's Fair Trade Towns and City, there's Fair Trade Schools, there's Fair Trade at Work, there's Fair Trade Festivals, Fair Trade Colleges, Fair Trade Parishes. There's all sorts of ways to get involved, and I'm not saying that the Tidy Towns group has to be the key element, but maybe there's something that can be done within the local business near you, the local factory that's near you with Fair Trade at Work, or the local school, or maybe you might decide, the local parish might decide. There's different ways of doing it, and it's a very good one, because always remember, fair trade is about trade, not aid, if you know, but it's another way of helping people to help themselves. Dance for the Oceans. Remember, this is just a very simple 25 seconds, and I'm going to play it. It was produced in 2019, actually. Now, this is another person or another theme that could link to the community section, because a local dance school could be in your community, and this is a way that a group that may not be part of Tidy Towns as such could really help you with something. In terms of tidiness and litter control, we have litter picks. Obviously many of you are involved in them, and that's an ongoing thing. Have you ever done simple litter characterization studies? You know, what actually are you picking up? I know we're inclined to say anecdotally all the time we pick up plastic bottles, now masks and disposable coffee cups, and that's true, but can you do any sort of a characterization where you're saying, well, actually 50% of what we pick up in the year, we have a fairly good handle on it, and our good guesstimate is 50% of what we're picking up is plastic bottles or the disposable cups or whatever. I'm mentioning an anonymous litter picking hour, and I'll do it again later. This can be a way of actually helping keep people litter picking with you. It's not that if people feel they have to sign up and show up all the time, sometimes they're not inclined to do something. Whereas if they can just go out, you're out there every day, and our Limerick City Centre Tidy Towns do this. They have set picking hours on a Sunday, set picking hours on a Wednesday evening during the summer, and Killarney Tidy Towns would have this as well. And maybe many of you are doing this already, but it allows people to show up and not feel they have to show up the next time, but maybe they might be more likely to if they don't feel they're under pressure. Also remember, in tidiness and litter control, sign cleaning schedule. From what I've heard, Listowel are super at that. Window cleaning schedule on the main streets, and that could be about chatting to local businesses and that, and you know, are they presenting themselves nicely for the Tidy Towns, to assist you in your work, for themselves, for everybody who's living in the town, and for eventually when a Tidy Towns adjudicator comes up. And to have local schools competition on displays in local communities and churches, and they could be litter posters or whatever it might be. In tidiness as well, do a signage audit. Those particular signs I've pictured there are from the UK, but we all know it, where you see these poles sticking out of the ground and there's no sign on them at all or whatever. Do a signage audit. Know whether you have too many signs in an area or not, or too many poles in an area or not. Now, I appreciate this is where you have to engage with the local authority, because nobody can just go and take up signs, but having an audit to say that you have it, you feel there's too many, and to go and discuss it with somebody about what can we do next, okay? And I would recommend that. And as you all know from reading your reports, the adjudicator for 2019, certainly every time he or she saw a dog poo sign on a wall, she asked for stencils on the footpath instead. Just anything to avoid extra signage. And this is just thought-provoking, really. When you're thinking about litter and waste, often people look for bins, but bins aren't necessarily always a good idea. And in this case, the bin has hugely added to, has just attracted litter. Now, this video, most of the videos that I've mentioned tonight, if you're on social media, these are available for ye to, sorry, apologies, for ye to, they're available to you and you can use them on your own social media. Now, there are different ways of looking at a video like that. Some people feel that one's a bit hard hitting, but we do a lot of the softly and, you know, encouraging thing as well. So I do think that there's a place for being a little edgier, if you will. For our residential streets and housing areas, have you engaged with residents in the local residential areas? This is one of the places where an anonymous litter picking hour might work well, you know. Particularly if you were going out to maybe assist in one of the residential areas with litter picking. Any COVID volunteer related initiatives in the area? And have you considered maybe a postcard to welcome new arrivals into a village or town? A postcard from the TidyTowns, if you will, and let them know about your anonymous litter picking hour. In terms of approach roads, streets and lanes, think in terms of accessibility audits. Is your school on the travel theme? If your school's on the travel theme, they may well have done something like this already or have completed something like this already in the recent past. Accessibility modifications, have they happened already in your area? A lot of our roads engineers will have been working on projects like that over the years. Are you including them in your application? And then, have you worked locally with local businesses and visitors? And when I'm talking about visitors, I'm talking about whether local people visiting to do their shopping or otherwise to prevent obstruction on footpaths like car parks or signage or cars parking or signage or whatever it might be. I would recommend as well to survey the roads and footpaths for potholes, broken pavements and curbs and things like that. Now, I've put up some very bad photos there. I did that on purpose. I think a survey, again, this is an action. Your survey is an action, okay, under this section. And then you have something to sit down and talk with the local authority about and maybe get a schedule for getting something fixed, or at least getting it on the programme of works. Are there new road markings, traffic signals, pedestrian crossings, cycle lanes in your area? All of these things are relevant in this category, and I would recommend that, okay, it isn't the TidyTowns group that goes out and paints the roads or does the road markings, but I still think you should be listing those in your area, because I think it shows a connection with the council, and I think that's an important part of the TidyTowns under the community section as well. Now, I'm going to hand over to Pádraig Malone. Pádraig, you can unmute there if you will.
Thanks, Sinead.
Pádraig is the Administrative Officer in the Community Development Directorate, and Pádraig is also my line manager, and he's going to give you an update on TLC 6.
So thanks very much, Sinead, and a very informative webinar there. Some really great insight into TidyTowns and what's going on at the minute. So just as Sinead said, I work with Sinead in the Community Development Directorate in Limerick City County Council, and on behalf of the council, I suppose I'm involved in the organisation of TLC along with our key stakeholder, JP McManus Development Fund, and the key partners of Mr. Binman, Limerick Leader, and Live 95 FM. I suppose the good news is that TLC is going ahead this year in full compliance with the COVID restrictions and guidelines. It's something that I suppose the organisers have discussed in the last number of months as to whether or not it would proceed. So the decisions we made with the intention to go ahead with TLC 6. It's on Good Friday, the 2nd of April, and you may have had an opportunity to see the special video message from Limerick hurler Cian Lynch in the media in the recent days. And I suppose his pride of place in his community of Patrickswell, and it just gives a background to where he comes from, and I suppose his celebration of community. And I think that's a key point. It's really the community involvement, and the idea is that for this year, TLC 6, Team Limerick Cleanup, will take place again in a different but doable manner. So I suppose we'd ask everyone here on this forum to visit teamlimerickcleanup.ie and register your interest and those within your family bubble to take part this year. It has been a difficult, I suppose, 10 or 11 months for communities, and I think the resilience that the Limerick community have shown has been super, and we can certainly see that in our department and the Community Development Directorate of how resilient groups have been, and they've still proactively pursued their projects, whether that be environmental or otherwise, within their communities, despite, I suppose, the COVID restrictions. So really what TLC 6 are asking is that the Limerick community go out maybe and look after their own area and their own patch and the environment within their immediate surroundings, obviously subject to current COVID restrictions. And we won't know what they are in April, but hopefully they may have lessened from level 5. I think it's very positive news for Limerick. The exact details of TLC 6 will be confirmed near the date, but it goes without saying, I suppose, that people's safety is first and foremost. It will be in full compliance with public health guidelines, whatever they might be on Good Friday. And I suppose since it started, there have been over 80,000 volunteers out there tidying up Limerick, and I suppose that really speaks for itself. And as I said to you, the key stakeholders are still right behind the TLC 6 and the council, JP McManus Benevolent Fund, Live 95, the Limerick Leader, and Mr. Binman. And obviously there'll be constant monitoring of the restriction levels, Sinead, and coming closer to April. So that's really just a very quick message on TLC 6. Yeah. As I said to you, if people can register on teamlimerickcleanup.ie, their intent, and also, I mean, just to keep an eye out for updates on the event in the coming weeks. Yeah. So thanks, Sinead.
Yeah, no problem, and we'll certainly be sending out. I regularly communicate with the group, so we'll certainly send out anything you wish us to send out, Pádraig. And perfect. That video of Cian Lynch is absolutely beautiful. It showcases Limerick beautifully as well, aside from TLC. You know, really nice. And something maybe Patrickswell, if you're out there, maybe you could use that within your TidyTowns application for this year. I'm sure TLC will be very generous with it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, Sinead. And again, info@teamlimerick.ie. If anyone has any queries, or look, you can obviously contact the County Council Customer Service also on any queries. But as I said to you, please keep an eye out for any media releases leading up to the event for more details.
Very good. Okay, thanks a million, Pádraig. That's a great update, and it's fabulous to see Team Limerick Cleanup back. Like the stats from TLC 5 were just fantastic. I have them up there to show you, and one of as well as the fabulous collection of litter, how organised everybody was, how safe everybody was, and Pádraig mentioned that, how key that is. There was a huge amount of 11,000 real cups of fair trade tea and coffee were drunk on the day as well. And fair trade, TLC has always been a fabulous supporter of fair trade. Just on following Porrick's announcement there, this could also appear in the sustainability category. Remember, over 22,000 litter pickers were distributed between TLC 1, I suppose, and TLC 5. More than that. Please reuse litter pickers in 2021. Please look out for them wherever they might be and reuse them. Okay, we're coming towards the end now, and I want to just, again, this video is available to you if you wish to use it. Report illegal dumping. It's very short. So again, that's available to you if you feel that you have a forum for it to showcase it. In terms of Limerick City and County Council, we're here to support groups wherever we can in terms of your Tidy Towns work. We don't always get it right, but we try. So please ask for your help if you need it. Remember your local development companies, Rhiannon in Ballyhowrah and Elaine in West Limerick Resources, fabulous sources of support and help as well. And the National Tidy Towns unit is also there to help, and John and Helen and, is it Anne? Have been super helpful, I've found anyway, over the year to do with anything that was needed by groups. For clarified. So I'm going to end the presentation there. I'll take questions and answers at the end through the Q&A box. Just keep in mind to stay connected with each other. That's really important. It's an important part of Tidy Towns because that what actually builds community. Stay safe, follow the COVID related government guidelines at all times, and take care of yourselves. We appreciate all the work you do. We hugely appreciate the work you do, and we're looking forward to where things are more normal and we can actually get out and all meet together again. So I'm going to stop the screen sharing there. Porrick, you're still with us, are you?
I'm Sinead, yeah.
Lovely. I'm just going to put it on speaker view. Sorry, just changing the viewing here, full screen. Okay. Okay, so we have some various comments, and in Castleconnell Tidy Towns have mentioned the issue around maps specifically for Limerick, and in the 2019 presentation. So consider it, but don't take it to heart if you don't feel it was correct, and maybe come and have a chat with me about it. There may have been some issues with it. However, I'd be very slow to suggest that you shouldn't look at, take on board what a Tidy Towns adjudicator says. Now, the key element with the Tidy Towns report is to acknowledge everything they say. You don't have to agree with it, and you don't have to go along with their suggestion necessarily. And again, I'm going to mention Richard from Talonstown, where Talonstown were once told to prune back the trees, and they didn't want to. And they didn't, because they felt they pruned them a certain amount, but they didn't do it to the extent that the adjudicator in that particular year had suggested. Always remember, you're looking to keep your individual character of your town. We're not looking for all of our towns and villages to be the same. So there's very personal character to towns, and we're looking to see that come through as well. Somebody's asking for a copy of this presentation. There will be a copy of this presentation. We'll put it on limerick.ie as a PDF, and also the webinar is being recorded, and we will put that up as well. Can we source the stencils for dog fouling? Okay, all of your local area offices have the stencils for dog fouling. All right, so I can't tell you get the stencils for dog fouling and then start spraying them on pavements wherever you wish, because that is a function of the road section. Okay, but all of the area offices in Limerick and the Met have been given these dog stencils, so you can put in a request to customer services. What I would suggest you do is you would know where you want them located, list it down, and say, we would like anti-dog fouling stencils opposite the library, in the park, you know, exactly where you want them. All right. We've had somebody who had to leave early. That's okay. Question for Porrig. Porrig, can groups such as TidyTowns register for TL6, or does it have to be smaller groups such as a family?
Thanks, Sinead. Yeah, really, what we're looking for people to do is register their interest, I suppose, within their family bubble, and within, I suppose, the COVID restrictions. So it's really a family bubble presently, Sinead. Now that's subject to change, as I said. There's obviously, depending on what level the country is in, but the registration will be right up to Good Friday.
Yeah, and I think as well, Porrick, it's fair to say that TidyTowns could have a huge role in promoting this amongst their towns and villages and communities as well, to families.
Yes, I mean, the idea is that families would go out and just clean their patch, you know, whether that's a couple of 100 meters either side of a gate, etc. You know, again, it's really about taking pride in your surroundings, your immediate surroundings, where you live, where you're from, and again, it's that, I suppose, it's that bit of resilience around the communities that it's almost in defiance of COVID, that we'll still be able to keep things clean within our immediate surroundings.
Absolutely. Ben asked the question about the dog fouling templates in terms of Kilmallock. Again, Ben, the area office in Kilmallock have the templates. So I'm going to take note of both Abbeyfield and Kilmallock. TidyTowns are both looking for dog fouling signage, but we need to get the locations. You can send them in to me actually, and I'll follow up on that. Where can we get the Let It Be signage? Again, Niall, if you contact me about that by email, I can organise any group that wants that Let It Be signage. We can organise to get the signs printed up for them. We'll do that to assist you with your work. The dog poop stencils in Duradoyle have faded. Should the council redo them? Or the council can... what I would say is, whenever you see something fade away like that, we've certainly had that request in before for other areas, by all means contact customer service and get it sent in. But Anne, I will pass that on to customer services now. Sorry, now there's road residents. We call sorry, there's some questions happening on chat as well. I'll go to them in a second. Road residents, we call our local residents who have litter pickers and will clean up their own areas. Road residents, I love it, like road runners. Okay, I'm just going to move to chat to see what's happening there, because there's some questions in there as well, I think. Hi. Thanks again for the presentation. 2 issues. Anti-litter signs, not problem. They are a litter problem. They are, and that was very clearly identified by the adjudicator in Limerick last year and many of the towns they visited. Moy Ross is Tracy and Moy Ross looking forward to TLC, and I agree. Dog fouling stencils for Croom as well. Yes, we can do that. Helen is answering a question here. Yes, TidyTowns. Yes, Helen O'Donnell is just suggesting, she's one of the participants today. spread the word on expressions of interest and registration, as many would have been registered by the group leader in the past, and that's very key. Many of you would have registered and people would have just shown up to you, so I think that would be good. Can you plant wildflowers? This is from Vedette. Can you plant wildflowers on grass parches? Vedette, can you just, is it pitches you meant? I'm not sure there. Wildflowers, in terms of any grass verges and stuff like that, grass patches. Yeah, what we have what has come across in the last couple of webinars is maybe we should be thinking less about planting the wildflowers and more about letting the wild seed bank come to the fore. So if you let an area, a grass patch, go wild or overgrow, and then keep a neat margin around it, okay, a neat mown margin around it to make it look managed with a sign, okay, and leave your flowers grow, and then maybe you cut that back once a year. Once you cut it, you leave the cut grass lie for a day or two so the seeds fall out of it, and then you take that cut grass away because you don't want to give more nutrients to the soil, because wildflowers prefer less nutrients. Okay, so basically what you're doing there, and then you see the seed bank come to the fore, and I did a little bit of that this year in a patch in my front garden. And the thing that a lot of people might find discouraging in their garden would be docks, but I found I had was able to watch goldfinch feed nearly every day over once the docks went to seed. It was a beautiful thing to watch in your front garden, sitting on the window ledge, you know. So, sorry, that's about aside, away from the point. So you can plant wildflowers on grass patches, but sometimes you might be better off to let the seed bank come to the fore itself. Now, let's see. I think we have more questions in the Q&A. Hang on now, I'm just cutting between the two. So, road residents... Kilteely would like dog fouling stencils also. I hope I can save this questions and answer. Kilteely, Croom. I would ask you all to send me an email and I will do that. Where do we pick up bags and what will we do with the rubbish? Has that been decided yet, Porrig? Where do they collect bags for? I think this must be for TLC 6.
It hasn't been decided yet, Sinead, but we're certainly working on it and trying to try and work something that's I suppose appropriate under the current restrictions.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Lovely. So the key thing at the moment is registering, and once you're registered, you'll get all the information anyway directly.
That's it. The key thing is to register your interest for the present, and that's the intention is for, as I said, TL6 to go ahead on Good Friday. So register your intent, and we'll hopefully tease through all these issues in the coming weeks, and obviously we'll inform those that have registered of what the position is with them.
Lovely. And now we have a question in from Bridie in Adair, and it's actually quite a good suggestion, Porrig. Is there a video clip that we can share, obviously in Adair TidyTowns social media, promoting the encouragement of family bubbles? They love the one at Keane Lynch, but it might be good to have a specific family bubble one as well, and that actually might be a good point. Now, sorry, Paul.
Go ahead, Sinead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. What I will say to you, whether you've come across it or not, those of you who are using social media, there's a great thing called Adobe Sparks, and it's available free. You can sign up for membership of it as well for a paid amount, but you can actually very simply create your own videos there as well. And it might be nice to have your little Adair specific one on the family bubbles too, without wanting to put you too much trouble in Adair with your social media. But it's just a thought. And I don't know whether you have any more on that, Porrig.
I don't at the minute. I mean, I suppose the Keane Lynch video has really been very positive.
Yeah.
And it really, I think, shows Limerick in a very positive light. And again, local musicians were and Pick-up Media were involved also, which are Limerick based. So it is very Limerick, if you like. It's look, as I said to you, there will be more media and event release news events on TLC. So look, that's something we can certainly bring back to the steering committee.
Lovely, lovely.
Thanks.
Now, when will the school children be allowed pick up Marie and Kilteely to pick up? Marie, I don't know if you're referring generally to school children and litter picks or specifically to TLC 6. I will tell you that a number of schools have done litter picks within their school bubbles, if you know what I mean. The children stay in their pods and within their bubbles, and they've done local litter picks and have enjoyed it very much and got out in the open air too, which is a good thing. All right. Okay, I think I've got everybody's questions and chats now. Pádraig, thanks very much for participating and updating us on TLC 6. It's much appreciated. And to all our participants this evening, all our Tidy Towns volunteers, thank you very much. Our next webinar, I think, will be the 3rd of March. And I will keep you updated on when we can reschedule that specific one on sustainability. And look, stay safe, mind yourselves, and have a lovely evening. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Pádraig. Bye.
Thanks, bye.